Hey y'all, I'm Yvonne with Back to Earth Creations, and I want to show you how to make a ring using this component that we made in a previous tutorial where I was showing how to make it into like a pendant. But we're going to be using a slightly different bead. This is just a different style of coin bead. You could use a round bead. I like coin beads for the rings because they don't poke out super far, but you use what you have on hand. We're also using 18 gauge for the core wire and 28 gauge for the coiling. But you could use something as thin as 20 gauge, though I'd recommend thicker if you can. And you could even use 26 or 24 gauge for your coiling and weaving wire. I just want to make a note really quick. Be sure to watch all the way to the end because I am going to be showing you how to recover and make adjustments if, like me, your ring goes a little askew and things aren't quite what you had, in your mind whenever you were starting out. So yeah, just watch to the end and hopefully we'll be able to help each other out. So using this piece as a reference, because you may be using a smaller or larger bead than what I am. Mine is a 10 millimeter. Well, let's just double check and make certain. Yeah, ours is a 10 millimeter wide bead. Kind of more or less the same as this one. So I'm going to use this as a gauge to see how many repetitions of the pattern. It looks like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 repetitions of the pattern to be able to make it around to like the cross section point. So we're going to go ahead. How many was that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There we go. It's as soon as I say numbers, they just leave my head entirely. More often than not. So while the wire is still attached to the spool, I'm going to run it a few times through my nylon jaw pliers just to make sure that it is nice and even and straight. We're going to be trimming about 10 inches. That is way more than what we need, but it gives us some wiggle room to play. And it makes our scrap be large enough that we can still utilize it for making like bead links or different things like that. As opposed to just having a useless bit of wire. If it's too short, I can't do too much with it. So, and now we might be able to show you a nice before and after difference of this is just me straightening it with my fingers. And then this is it straightened with the nylon jaw. It's not a super huge difference right now off of this spool because the 18 gauge is very nice. Like the wire I get from Pairwire, very nice. Super duper love it. Not sponsored or anything. I just have been using their wire almost exclusively just because it's what I keep in stock since like 2010, roundabout there. Maybe 2012, I don't know. I've slept since then. So we're going to cut 2 lengths of the 18 gauge. And also a big part of this is you could modify this into a bracelet. Like there's a bunch of different things we can do, but let's narrow it down and start from there. Now with our 28 gauge, I am going to be using a full arm span. So about 5 feet of the wire. And let's start by finding our center point. Now, I know I've covered this in other tutorials, but I'm not going to send you on a goose chase to the ends of the internet to try to find a tutorial that I probably can't even find the link for. So that's why I'm going to be demonstrating this again for you. So we're just lining this up with the center point. I'm going to come off of it about an inch just because, I don't know, it keeps the tips more lined up at the end, I think. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 wraps. We're gonna squish all that down. So I guess that's technically 6 from that first loop over, but I'm not super worried about it. And now I'm going to slide in this second wire and just getting them to where the ends are lined up. And now I'm going to wrap twice around both wires. I'm going to splay the ends here so that they're kind of branched away from each other and they make a nice little funnel. So we'll be able to go 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So I'm going to do 3 repetitions of this pattern. So there's the 2 around both. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And you can change this up if you want them closer together or wider apart. It's more about covering a certain amount of space, and I'll measure that when we get there. Now here on this third one, I'm only going to go 1 and 2, and I'm going to have it exit towards the front. But this way, we're all lined up. This is going to be the wire that goes through our bead. So now I'm going to rotate our work. And we're going to go 1, 2. And again, making sure that I've got that little bit of a funnel just makes it so much easier to insert my wire. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Don't sweat it. It doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't have to be anything other than what it is. We're here for the joy of crafting, hopefully. 3, 4, 5. Squish. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Oh, just one more. So we're going to go 1, 2, and then we're going to make sure we're wrapping around the correct wire. 1, 2, and then passing it through the center point there. So this looks like, to get around the perimeter of our bead, like 1/2 of it. How many chicken nuggets? So it looks like that is 14 millimeters. Let's see if it's enough space to go around. So what we're going to do is, just using my fingertips, though you could also use your nylon jaw pliers, but to keep it flat, but I feel like that's a little less control for me. But you experiment until you find your favorite way, you guys. You've got this. So I'm just keeping the wires nice and flat as I shape them around. Oop, I've made that a little too tight, so I'm just going to open it up a little bit. And it looks, honestly, like we could use one more repetition. So I'm going to do on this side for no particular reason, just because that's the one I picked. So that's 3, 4, and 5. And then I'm going to wrap once around both and twice around both. And then we're going to go 1, 2, and then pass it through to the front so that we are prepared for our third to go through the center of our bead. So I'm going to set this down on the table. We're going to scooch that over yonder. We're going to slide one of our 28 gauge wire lengths through the center of our bead. And then this one we're going to take, paying attention to the way that the wire is traveling so that everything's lined up if we can. And then, so I'm actually going to push our bead out just a little, whoop, and just wiggle it on through. It might be, you'll definitely want to make sure that you're using a bead that can fit 2 lengths of the wire that you're using through it. And so often that's what dictates what wire I use or what beads I use. You know, if I have a particular bead that I'm like dead set on, I am wrapping this bead today, it's going to dictate to me what wire gauges I use, based entirely usually on what looks, or what fits the bead hole and what looks good. Sorry, words are hard. Or if there's a wire that I'm like, I'm using this wire today, that will dictate, you know, what beads I'm able to use based off of what can fit through there. So this wire has traveled through and is now on top of our work on this side. And this wire has traveled through and now is on top of our work on this side. And whenever I say on top, I just mean whatever is facing me. So I'm going to shape these wires this way and these wires this way. Again, just trying to establish a little bit of a funneling shape to make it nice and easy when I want to thread my wire through. So that finishes 3. So there's 4 and 5 little coils. I hold on to my wire and push with my fingernail there's actually a super handy tool that I've lined with NextCare medical tape that's like a little thimble that I like to put on almost like an acrylic nail, but that way we can go 1, 2, and whenever I need to press, I can just press into it. All the tools and materials that we're using will be linked down in the video description. 2, 3, 4, and 5. So that's something that I recommend if you're having trouble with your wire eating into your fingernail. And so now that's nice and locked down. I'm going to stop there, and we are going to go to the other side where our wire traveled through. So that's going to finish off what would have been our third coil. So there's 4 and there's 5. And then we're going to wrap once and twice around both. And then we're going to go like 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So you could be doing, I think, a 2-2 variation of this pattern looks really good. And what I mean by that is 2 wraps around both wires and then just 2 wraps around one wire. So this gap here would be much smaller. And so you can change that variation to suit however you like, but what I like to do is how I'm doing 5 coils in between, I like to finish on 5. That way I know where to start again. If I were only doing 2 or 3 coils in between, I would only do 2 or 3 coils to finish up on this side, just to make for certain that I don't have to, that consistency gives me something that I can rely upon, and it takes some practice before you can trust yourself. But it helps me, and my hope is that it'll be helpful to you as well. So now we get to check out over here on our reference piece. We did our little crossover point. I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 repetitions of the pattern around both wires. Now I am going to go ahead and just begin a little bit more of that shaping things off in that direction. Again, mostly just to make space for myself while I wrap. So we're going to go, there's 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And then 1, 2, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Well, we only need to do 2 more. 1, 2, flump. And we can be a little sloppy here and just compress it together. I feel like currently that's because I'm using the 28 gauge wire. I find the thicker of a weaving wire that I'm using, the more resentful it is of my sloppiness. So just something to keep in mind. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Ah, excellent. So I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And now we're going to come around to the other side, and we've got, there's 1 and 2, and then we're going to go flump, 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 and bump. Now, I have an easier time, usually on one side more so than the other. That's okay. Be gentle with yourself, be patient with the project. It can be pretty stressful to make something that you love doing, that's an art, into a job. But it's also something that I'm very glad that I do and that I pursue, but it takes a juggle of balance to make sure that, you got to honor your creative spirit, and you've got to honor, that sometimes things are just going to be what they are. They don't have to be perfect. And oftentimes things that I make that do not come out how I had originally planned or anything like that, and that maybe I'm significantly less than satisfied with, are sometimes fan favorites. So I don't want anybody to feel pressured to, oh, you got to sell your work, you got to start a business, you got to do this or that. You ain't got to do nothing. You got to have fun. That's the only thing I'm pushing here. But if you do find yourself with like a TikTok shop or an Etsy or a website or a booth or anything like that, just know that you can do it. It can be a precarious balance, but if it's in your heart, it's worth pursuing. And also, that being said, all of our designs across, like we've got like almost 2,000 videos and live streams here on our Back to Earth Creations channel. And every single one of them, any of the designs that we cover, you can make and sell in your booth or website or anything like that. The only thing that we ask is that if somebody comes to you and they're like, oh my God, I love your work, how do you do this? Teach them. Either teach them your own self or reference them to our or someone else's YouTube, but just spread the joy of crafting as much as you can, because it really helps the whole art to stay alive and to grow and to thrive and to be exciting and fun, I think. So, all right, we did our coils on each side. And now I'm just, again, using, you can see how tight I'm squeezing because it's leaving the lines on my fingers, but I'm just grabbing it to primarily to hold the wires flat next to each other. And then I'm just going to shape this around. And now we need to start worrying about what ring size we want to be making. And I'm sure there's charts of this online of like specific measurements, but I'm going to make this into a size 9. And so I'm just going to use the tail end of one of my wires to come around. And I'm going to measure. This looks like 60 millimeters is the length we're going to want for a size 9 on this design. So now that lets me know what I want to design within. And even though I have the number, I'm just going to snip that end off and hold it up against here. Just because I don't know why, that's simpler to me. So let's see. Ooh, and now we get to decide. You could do a really tight coil. Now I've shown in our other tutorial how to do like a nice organic like spiral like this, and we actually have an entire wire wrapping masterclass going over just spirals. So if you're new to wire wrapping, or it's been a while since you've brushed up on your fundamentals, we are never too good at what we're doing, you guys, to work on our fundamentals and basics, because that's going to bring everything that we do up another notch. But I'm going to show you this time how to do a tight coil, just because I think that'll look really good with this bead. So I'm going to do an inch or 25 millimeters. Kind of just finding myself wishing I had a slightly, I don't know if you can hear my dog farting in the background. These are super pro videos, 100%. Hazy dog, you gassy fiend. All right, so I'm actually going to do 30 millimeters. I changed my mind. I think we're all animal lovers here. I think we can all understand sometimes you got a rootin' tootin' puppy in the house. All right. Oh, I'm really glad I cut the right wire on that one. We'd have to do some improvisational work if I cut the wrong wire. Okay, so we've cut the correct wire. I'm going to bring this in just a little. I do like to make sure that I have my cuts done on the flat side of my pliers. So I'm just going to trim them both just a smidge so that they're still even. And I'm going to use my round nose pliers. I do recommend, this would actually be perfect, some of this scrap that we've got right here, which you'll notice is perfectly long enough, like it's over 2 inches. That is super duper definitely long enough to make like links for like a bracelet or something, but we're going to practice making spirals. So I'm going to hold as close to the tip of the pliers and as close as to the tip of the wire as I can. And I'm going to begin by making a little loop like that. And now, yeah, I'm going to keep this a little simpler. We don't have to do squished loops or anything like that. But I'm just going to try to make this wire be really next to itself. And this is where I do like to use either some flat nose, or my favorite are these nylon jaw pliers. And so I'm just grasping and then pressing the wire around. Again, the whole point of grasping on this is to keep our spiral flat and two-dimensional. Oh, I should have gotten a good measurement of this first, and I would have been able to see exactly how much wire it uses up. But do you see how cool that looks? Like, and especially if you like hammer it or something, I mean, that's just fun. And we could actually make these, both of them, into like a little earring or something. So bonus project, you just bring that around, and then you'll see I have a little notch in the nose of my pliers. That's my favorite loop size. And so I'm just going to line up with that notch and bring that around. It makes like around a 3mm inner diameter loop. Boop, squishing it flat. And so now we could just do 2 of those, and we've got some cute little earring charms. But I'm going to scooch that off to the side. And so now we're going to try to do that same. We're going to do our best. Worst case scenario, it's organic. But practice will make progress in all things. So keep at it. So we've got that little loop like so. And then coming in from the other direction, we're going to make another little loop like so. And sometimes on my spirals, let me know if you guys have any tips for this, but sometimes on my spirals, like it'll be straight when I want it to be curved. So that's okay. I mean, it's not the end of the world, but it's not as like crispy perfect as what I would want. And I think that's the best way to be self-critical about our own work, is it's like, okay, so it's not your 100% best favorite. That doesn't mean that it's terrible, but how could we make it more your favorite? Like, how would it be better? And then you just work on bringing that up. And so I keep poking myself in the hand with the end here, but I'm just shaping our spiral, same as what we did before, a little smidge at a time. Oh, I love it. Absolutely love it. Okay, so now we're going to grab on this end. I'm just bending that down again so it's not poking the life out of me. And I just grasp and bring around. Hopefully what you see on the screen is more helpful than the words I'm using. Bonk, bonk, bonk. Just smush, smush, smush. Ooh, I love how that looks. Isn't that just fun though? Okay, so now we have our 5 coils on there. I would like to finish off the coiling because let's not forget, we want our ring to be this long. You know, we've got our wire end there and there. So I'm going to shape this wire down that away. But first, let's coil. We have 5. Let's get this up to 30 coils. So there's 6, 7, 8. There we go. There's 30 coils. Smush it down. We may end up needing to do more than that, but we'll start here. And again, I'm going to just make sure that my wire is traveling outside of, if this is the work area that I'm traveling and passing through, I don't want my loose end, tag end wires to be in that space because I'm just getting in my own way. And now let's see if we can risk a little bit of zooming in here. Oh, I've completely lost count. I think we're up to 11 now. But whenever I'm coiling around, I want to make sure that I'm getting those coils pretty close to next to each other, because we can always compress it down. But if we are being very spacious in between each of the coils and then we compress down, do you see how that's like kind of meh? Hey, crispy. Meh. So, but with the 28 gauge, I can just press with my fingernail and like while pulling on this wire and just cinch that down and in. So, I mean, I aim for this, but it's good to know how you can like recover from being a little lazy, little sloppy. It's okay. Well, heck, I have no idea what count I'm on, so I'm just gonna go till it looks the same. Oh, I can measure it with a ruler. Look at me using tools. Now, typically whenever I measure, I'm gonna leave off from where this wrap around both is, that's going to be my starting point. So that looks like 15 millimeters. And, oh, that's just a smidge under. So I'll add a few. No, I'll just compress that one down a little more. Okay. So, this next step is where it can get kind of tricky. And I'm making the executive decision because for some reason there's a little nick in my wire. So that's going to be where I cut to make our coil, or yes, our spiral. There we go. And again, we can use a ruler. This comes to 35 millimeters past that wrap. There we are. You can see those are perfectly large enough to make links and, you know, little spiral charms. Now I'm leaving this wire, thin wire, attached because that's what we're going to use. We could make this adjustable, but I'd like to make it a little bit more secure. So making a little loop and then bringing that in. Then we're going to come to this side and I'm going to make a loop. I put my fingers on the back side to, again, just try to keep it very two-dimensional. Okay, and so now we're going to coil this in, but I don't want it like too close because we need to be able to sew through right here. And I'll show you what I mean by that in a moment. So at this point in the design, I do not mind at all making it a little shorter than what I think it needs to be, because we can stretch this back out on the mandrel, but it's very tricky, or rather it's much trickier to get it. It's such a satisfying sound. Unsheathing our ring mandrel. Shing! Dramatic sound effects are dramatic. So we're going to shape this around on our ring mandrel. Man, this is really much smaller than I thought it was going to be, but that's okay. We're learning. You don't have to get it perfectly right fresh out the gate. So it looks like that might actually be a little bit better of a knuckle ring on me at this point. And the way that we would tweak that is we can make this spiral a little larger. I'm trying very carefully to not scratch up our wire. There we go. Just opening it with our nylon jaw pliers, and then we get to open that up a little bit more. And you could make, these were, what were they, 35 millimeter spirals? We could have done these at 45 millimeter and extended them around just a little bit more. We could have also made this arch here a little longer. You know, so like instead of just 5 repetitions of the pattern, we could have done maybe 7 or 8, and that would get it even larger up to size. Oops. And then you can also use another coin bead, if you don't mind a bead there on the inside of the finger. So I'm just bringing this out a little more. And from here, I want to bring our coiling to where it's even at the center line of our spiral, because we're going to go across here in a moment. So we want to get both of those. I'm not super duper keeping track of count right now because it's more about how it looks than anything. And I want, what I'm looking for is a full coverage of the core wire with our coiling wire. And so just carefully wrapping around, trying to make sure that I'm not coiling back over my own self, my previously wrapped coils. Drop me on my own head. And then if it's easier for you, which it may at some point get to where it's easier to just whip stitch, I like to use my thumbnail as a little bit of a ramp to make sure that the wire's not sliding down where I don't want it to be. I'm going to try zooming in quite far on this. So I just bring it around and then push it together. So I'm bringing it around and then pushing it together. And so I think we're there. And I'm going to use this side because I'd rather come up from below. Just sewing through. Whoop. So do you see how that wrap is going now around both little spirals? So there's 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. Let's do one more for good measure. And 5. And now I'm just going to go like 1, 2, 3. I'm going to do a total of 5 coils past, and it may be easier to hand sew. So there's 4. I'd want to at least do a minimum of 5, but let's see how this does being stretched on the ring mandrel. Yeah, oh no, that ended up making like a size 4. I think what happened here, y'all, is I did not account for this is a much thinner wire. There's a lot going on here, so it's not just it takes up some space on its own inner diameter, so it didn't factor in the material space, but you can see how this stretches down to a size 9. We have that little bit of emptiness there. That's okay. I think that'll be just fine. So we're going to slide that back off. If you find yourself with, I've got quite a sizable gap on this one, so I'm actually going to sew just a few little coils to fill in that gap here. And let me know down in the comments, would it make you bonkers to have this little spirally loop there? Because I think it would make me insane unless I did what we're about to do, which is I'm going to sew through our loop and we're going to actually close the loop so it's not just getting tangled in your hair every time you run your fingers through your hair, or something like that. And I like to do at least 2. Let's go ahead and do a 3rd one just because we can. again, it's less about exact counts and more about having it look the way that you want it to. And then I'm just going to jump the gap, you know, from where we were wrapping across. I can actually add one more to the acrossedness of this. Just nestling that wire down in with the other ones. And then we can sew our 5. And this part doesn't have to be perfect. You may be able to get yours to be just meticulous, every single coil of wire perfectly in place. And that's amazing if you can, but it doesn't have to be. And I think that's something that I forget a lot. And it sucks a lot of the joy out of crafting for me if I feel like, oh, yeah, I did it, but it wasn't very good. And it's like, boo. No, you did it. That's amazing. Like, let yourself experience a little bit of joy in this. Like, it's the why you're doing something is the difference between your joy and your job. And if your why is to have fun, I went ahead and snipped that, then that's what we got to keep in mind. Okay. So you can leave it to where it's an open gap like that, or you can bind it off like how we did there. I'm going to go ahead and use my, look at how nice that is. Once we gave it a smush with some metal jawed pliers. You know, if you had wanted to sew the loop shut on this side too, we would just continue sewing around. The wire is both the needle and the thread in this instance. And this is going to be, there's like some tiny little fuzzy hairs. It's meticulous, and it's like the slowest part of the project, but it's the little details like this that make the magic happen. And I've found here lately for me, each piece is almost a feat of endurance, just getting through. You know, it's always fun to start a project, but finishing it, ooh, starts to feel like work. But you can do it. We're good at doing difficult things. And I don't mind hard work. I want to feel good about what it is that I'm doing if I can. You know, especially when it's something creative like this. So I am currently cognitive behavioral therapying myself out of workaholicism. So it's like trying to get back to just crafting for fun. You know, burnout's very, very real, and apparently you can't just gratitude journal your way through grieving and burnout and stuff. So here we are with the CBT. There we go, shaping that around, just a few more stitches. And what I mean by that is just like willfully saying nice things to myself while I work. You know, having it, just being very mindful of any negative thought patterns, and, you know, being worried that it's like, oh, people are going to be bored watching this. And it's like, they clicked on my face. It's okay. You know, I'm not everybody's cup of tea. I don't have to be. Just have fun, girl. You got this. Easier said than done, but it's worth striving for. So now I could have done a few more. I don't feel like I need to though, because I kind of like the chaotic organic look of it. And I'm going to do at least 2 stitches through like so, just to get everything joined together. And then I'm going to sew through here just kind of splicing the wire in between itself. So there's one, and then threading this through, and there's two, and then let's do one more. Bump. Maybe. Yes, excellent. Okay, and then we can snip it, and then we can squish it to make sure. Let me get this super zoomed so that you can see what it is that I'm talking about. Do you see that little flash of the wire? I just want to make sure that that is boop, smushed on in, because if it can poke, it will. Woo, that's nice. Oh, I don't know if that was in frame, but and that is how. I need a bigger ring size apparently. There we go, size 9. This is how we can make this design into a ring. And I know y'all are gonna have so many other good ideas about how, you know, to fill in these thinner gaps in areas. You might be able to add on a whole nother piece, but I think this is a great foundation project that you can take and branch out into, hopefully, many other jewelry designs. And it's kind of fun because the coin bead just spins, and I just love it. So I hope that this tutorial was helpful to you guys. If you have any questions, comments, or ideas, do leave them down below. I love hearing from y'all. And if you have any requests for future tutorials, or if you want to share pictures of your work onto our community page here on YouTube, or anything like that, links to everything are down below. And I will see y'all in our next video. So until then, thank you so much for being here, and happy crafting. Mwah! Bye! So while I try to get a nice thumbnail of this ring while the neighbor's cat loves on me, I just wanted to share some of the internal dialogue that I think can be, hello, that can be so destructive. You know, just the thinking, oh, it's not good enough, or, you know, man, this didn't come out the, bro, this didn't come out the way that I wanted. You know, all these different things. Sometimes you just gotta let it, there's a cat, but sometimes you just gotta let it be and just enjoy it, and, you know, kind of sit with your thoughts and feelings and be like, you know, maybe I'm being hard on myself, but maybe I'm right. Maybe I'll do better next time. So, oh, Malanta, somebody needs to give you some love, buddy. I'm gonna see if I can get a thumbnail for this, and we're gonna feed and snuggle this cat. Okay, so I sat with my feelings for a little bit, and I realized that my why isn't to make perfect jewelry, that nor is it my job to make perfect jewelry. My why and my job are to make tutorials that are helpful, hopefully, to you, to help you make, you know, your best jewelry that you can. And so when we find ourselves in this predicament, what do we do the next time so that that doesn't happen again? So what I've done, using the exact same materials, I did a 40mm spiral from that last double wrap, and I also increased the number of wraps that we have coming around, because I think this would be great for a smaller sized ring, you know, kind of quite small actually. And then we also have, so we got that coiled in the exact same way, and now I've done 60 coils on this side and 40 coils on this side, and we are going to start, before cutting anything, we are going to try shaping our ring around. And so I'm going to set this one at around a size 10, just to shape initially. So you can see we still have a significant amount of space to fill in with our spiral. And so this has got me thinking, all sorts of thoughts. But I think we don't have to do a round spiral fitted at the end, because it kind of had me thinking, and we can test this with some of our scrap wire. We're going to do our loop, and then we come around, and it's like right here, we can do a little bend. And then this would shape into the rest of our ring. So what I'm visualizing is so pretend with me that this is this wire, but this would come around. We can bind it back onto itself and we can do that connection point or just leave it adjustable right there. And I think that would fill that in, pretty nicely, actually. And so we can test it in the shaping and everything. Oh, that's probably a little more rounded than what we need, but here we go. Just for testing purposes again. Yeah, that length should be pretty good. And so now we can kind of, let's flatten this back out. And now we can shape this wire to match this little template that we've made for ourselves. Yeah, I'm definitely going to need to do some more coiling, which is fine. We just wanted to test to see how much more. So there's 80 coils. There's 100 coils. And again, if you're using a 24 or a 26 gauge wire, the coil count is not really gonna be helpful to you because, the 24 gauge, this would actually be a really interesting video to kind of experiment or to show the experimentation, what 10 coils of 28 gauge looks like next to 10 coils of 26 gauge looks like next to 10 coils of 24 gauge, just to see the difference. So hopefully future Vaughn will be able to make a video of that. So we have our 100 coils, we did our bend, lining up our template for what we think will fit. Because so much of this, you guys, it's guesswork. Like, I guess. I'm guessing that this might work out. So let's give ourselves 25 millimeters past where the end of our coiling is. So let's get another measurement here. This is 40 millimeters from the tip of our bend. And I'm not trimming our coiling wire because we may still be using that. Or we're definitely still going to be using that to join things together. So I'm just going to grab as close to the tip as I can, both to the wire and the pliers. And then we're just going to circle this in, boop, 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 to make a nice, like, kind of little leaf. Oh yeah, that's very nice. And we can even tighten that down just a little bit more just to make it match the other spirals. I'm still going to leave that space though, just to make it easier on myself sewing this together. So that was our 100. And so now I'm just going to go in hand sew just a little bit. Do, 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 just a little bit. Do, 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 kinky wire. Do, do, do. There we go. And I do this stuff in real time to try to give you guys an idea of, an accurate idea of how long these projects can take. I love YouTube shorts and Instagram reels and, TikToks. I absolutely love them. But I think they are just poison for my mental health because it really does shape almost, for me, I can only speak for myself, you guys. But in my experience, those short form videos that are very well edited and, almost pristine in their presentation just make, they shape my subconscious expectation of myself. And that's not helpful. It is whenever it's based on reality, but those shorts and stuff, I know just in my own editing of mine, I'll even watch it and just feel like, gosh, why can't I do it like that? And it's my own video. I know how much I edited it to like speed it up and get it all to fit into 1 minute. So just keep that in mind, and that's a big reason of why I do the way that I do the things that I do, is because I need to exist in reality a little bit more if I can. So we're just going to stitch this around. Or rather, I love existing in the fantasy of, online and everything, but I do like to stay grounded in reality. Just every chance I get. So I'm just skipping a bit. Let's see if zooming in is helpful. And so I'm just going to sew through right here. Pulling that through. That, and I highly recommend what's been working for me, and that is I don't watch YouTube shorts on my phone anymore, because if I am on my phone, I do not have a project in my hands, and if I don't have a project in my hands, then I'm not crafting and having as much fun as I could be. And so that's been like kind of a rule for myself, is that if I'm going to partake in this thing that I enjoy, I'm going to do it with a craft project in my hands, or coloring or crochet or petting a cat or something, and just letting it be on a screen, but at least it's not keeping my hands busy from doing something else as well. So I'm going to zoom back out because I don't know how much of that was in frame. But yeah, so we got some nice little stitches there. And then I'm going to come back through into the center mark. Already, I feel like this is so much better. Like, I feel proud of this. Whereas the other one, I felt almost like I should delete the video and apologize, like, for making such crappy jewelry. And it's like, Vaughn, don't be that way towards yourself, please. But sometimes we need a redemption project. And so I thought about it for a little bit, and I was like, I bet if we did this, it would work out. And then so I know this is going to be a longer video, but I appreciate y'all being here with me to learn how to sort through those problems whenever you have them. So we're just going to sew through. There's 2. Trying to keep that wire from getting kinky on me. And there is 3. Normally I would push for 5. But I think 3 is going to be just fine in this instance. And I am going to go ahead and snip it. Boop. There we are. And then we're going to smush down that little bare end. And if I can get it to go between those wires, that would have been the way to do it. There was a trick I've seen somebody do, a couple of folks do here on the internet, where you have the wire come through and you like wiggle it back and forth until it breaks. That would be the thing to do in this instance. Ooh, also, shameless self-promotion. We sell our jewelry online at backtoearthcreations.com, as well as craft-along kits and different things like that. So if you would like to take home some of our works of art, or if you'd like to take home some of our cabochons to use in your own works of art, that's backtoearthcreations.com. And so we are just going to keep coiling this around. I've lost track. It was supposed to be 100 coils. We'll see. Because what did it end up being? 40 millimeters? Or that was from the bend. Good news, if you forget, what it was supposed to be and different things like that, we can just hold up our little template that we made and we can shape things around just a little. It doesn't have to be perfect. And if your wire gets a little smushed out of line, you can just use your nylon gel pliers to kind of squish it on back. And then from right there, I'm going to put a little bit of a bend, because we had a little bit more ways to go. And I'm just going to do 10 coils at a time until it looks about where we want it to be. I think that looks pretty good. I'm going to go ahead and snip our wire at the 40 millimeters. And then use our round nose pliers to shape this spiral. Oh yeah, that is so much nicer so far. I don't want to, count the eggs before they hatch, but okay. Now we're going to, I'm going to flip it over and work from the back side. So there's one little coil around both. Just whip stitching through, trying to give a little bit of space. So it's like, just like on the other side, there's just a little bit of space in between there. Or you could try to get it spliced like perfectly in between every other coil, but I don't personally feel like that's super necessary. Like, I like this. I feel like it gives it character and a little bit of its own little thumbprint or fingerprint. And then from here, this one could stay an adjustable ring. There's one. Bringing these wires through. I'm going to be honest, I don't have a ton of patience for this style of wire weaving where I'm having to sew it through, set it down, sew it through. Like, it just feels like twice as much work just to get the coil. And it is, but I'm trying to be better about being more patient. Okay, so now I can show you. This is the trick I was talking about. Instead of snipping it with our flush cutters, we can just come in here and wiggle, holding that wire in place until it breaks, and then there's no pokey bit and it's nestled right between those little wires. So we're going to come here and we can now shape these down. And you can see that our electricity is having some issues. So you could keep this as an adjustable ring that has quite a nice, goodness, that has quite a nice little bit of a band on it. Maybe I can just use the light on the phone, like the flash. We'll see what we can do with that. But, or we could get adjusted down to size, or just put the tips together and do a little bit of a whip stitch to bring those two tips together. But this is another way that you could be making a wire wrapped ring. If you don't quite like how this ring band looks, maybe try it this way. So now, bye-bye for real. I do hope that this was helpful to you, you guys. Happy crafting. Mwah. Bye.